Jack, I just want to tell me your story on agriculture. You didn't come from agriculture. Tell me a little bit about your background and how you got to where you're at today. And then I want to know, where's Jack going? Where's Jack want to go? So walk me through that. If I randomly throw my hand up, stop for a second because I got a question.
That's a loaded question. So
Yeah.
I started, I guess, 4 years ago, and I didn't grow up in a farm family. Both of my parents, they're either engineers or help work with engineers, and so farming was completely out of their wheelhouse. And I grew up in a town where farming wasn't the main industry. We have a lot of military presence, a lot of engineers, and farming. A lot of people don't know about farming. And so
Where
in
are
high
you
school,
from, Jack? I should start
I'm from
there.
Huntsville, Alabama.
Okay.
And so it's North Alabama. We're 10 to 15 minutes south of Tennessee.
Got it.
And in high school, I was in a church youth group with a kid named Spencer, who's now my college roommate, and his family had a farm 20 minutes outside of town. And he'd always talk about they were harvesting beans and, planting and all that stuff, and it sounded really cool. And so I drove out there one day and took pictures, and I didn't know any of them but Spencer. And that kind of snowballed into, it was right at wheat harvest, and so it kind of snowballed into, here, come out and take pictures during wheat harvest. And one thing after another, it kind of just fell into place of me taking pictures out there and going out there. And I ended up working out there for a summer because I wanted to learn more about what farmers deal with and what it was like to work on a farm, because I had never worked on a farm. And through that, it kind of got me connected with Spencer's uncle is Chad Henderson, and with Extreme Ag. And so I got connected with him, and they needed pictures for Extreme Ag and some of the sponsors and stuff like that. And so it kind of snowballed into, I guess, what it is now. But it really just started out of, I wanted to see what they were doing, and there was a need for photography. There weren't, the companies could send somebody to take pictures, but was it worth it to send a photographer to take pictures of Chad pouring a chemical into a sprayer? Mm-hmm. And so it was kind of just right place, right time for me. And it's opened up a lot of doors, and it's a really cool, what started as just like I take pictures and I want to post them, I don't want them to sit on my hard drive for the rest of my life. It's turned it into something really cool with, I don't know, the whole goal is just to tell farmers stories and get their story out there, because a lot of people don't know where their food comes from.
Sure.
And I feel like it's our responsibility to show them, or use social media and get that out there.
Well, and there's a tremendous it's very easy for people to say that the farmer is the bad guy. Farmers just continually spray things on their crops and they're killing people. We hear about it in so many aspects of life. The farmer is the guy that takes the blame when oftentimes it's just a lot of misconception. Like people truly don't know. I have not met a farmer who wants to leave things worse than what he found it. I have not met a farmer who wants to go and just do things to their crop for completely unnecessary reasons. Now, sometimes we'll go out and do things to try something, and then do we learn it was unnecessary? Yes, but I don't think anyone loads a sprayer or a side dress bar or something and just is like, this probably won't do anything and it's only hurting something, so I'm going to go do it. I haven't met one. Honestly, I hope I don't meet one. But,
and it's cool to hear, because working with farmers, people growing up on a farm, everyth's normal. During harvest you're busy, during planting you're busy. The terminology, all that's normal. But coming from a family that didn't farm or doesn't farm, it's cool to hear that perspective and explain it to, my family or friends who don't, work in the ag industry. Because I'll come home, and being that my parents are engineers, they, the technology and all that aspects, they find it interesting, and they'll start asking questions about the technology in these machines, or how a combine works and stuff like that. And a lot of people don't know, they might see it on the side of the road harvesting, but they don't know all that goes into it, or, how much technology is in a sprayer. And so it's cool to show other people, farmers aren't, they don't have a pitchfork and they're, all they do is, turn hay. Like you almost need an IT degree to work on these machines.
Yes, I say we've talked about it before that a farmer is probably one of the most diversified, skilled individuals left in today's workforce. You know, generally a farmer is good at mechanics. He's good at, chemistry. You have to be good at chemistry. You have to be good at,
Just the business aspect.
The business, a business side, marketing. You have, having employees anymore because the farms have grown in size. You've got, agronomy, just for your crops. You've got, dude, the list just goes on of all the different fields that a farmer, not all farmers, but what farming is moving into. All these areas that you have to be good at to just keep a business running, and like you said, the pitchfork and the overalls is still a very, he's got a tractor and he's got a combine and, he plants and he cuts, but man, that disconnect that people have, it's fun. Dude, I really enjoy taking people out. I guess on a podcast, it's hard, you can't. It's hard to explain to people. But on the other side of the road, I've got a field, and I enjoy taking people during the summer. We enjoy having families over. I got a wife and a couple of kids, and so we've always got kids and people coming over. I'd like taking them over there and just walking through a field with them and showing them things. It's like, hey, this is where this plant's at. And hey, let's dig this up. Let's look at some. See, this is happening for this reason. And people are just like so mind blown that, just by the smallest of things. But it's, and then they start to, you can see the light bulbs come on that they're like, I totally had the wrong idea about this. And, what's fun is actually taking the shields off the side of a combine and showing someone what happens, because they see it go in and then they see stuff thrown out the back and then some grain in the bin. But you actually show them the process, the rotor, the sieves, the cleaning, grain return, all the functions of the combine. And they're really like, I had no idea it was this complicated. It's like, yeah, this is why these things cost $500,000 to $1 million. Guys, if you've liked the information that you've seen so far, go ahead and check out the full-length podcast on our YouTube channel. Be sure to subscribe there. It's also on all the major podcast platforms. We're constantly dropping info and more content on all the social media platforms, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, etc. Check it out for a lot more content.